Support for Gulf States Gumbo comes from the Britannia Theater, uptown in New Orleans, playing new movies, classics, and unique programming. Join the Britannia for Downton Abbey and One Battle After Another on 70mm film. Information at thebritannia.com for all showtimes.
From the Gulf States Newsroom, this is the Gulf States Gumbo, your weekly serving of stories from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I'm public health reporter Drew Hawkins, chopping it up this week. On today's show, the federal government shutdown is now the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and it's still going. One impact that's drawn some of the biggest headlines, especially here in the Gulf South, is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, better known as SNAP or food stamps. SNAP funds were not sent out at the beginning of the month, leaving millions of Americans without much needed aid to put food on the table for themselves and their families. Here in the Gulf South, almost 2 million people are on that program. Over the last few weeks, states have done different things to try to make sure at least some of those people don't go hungry. Things like supporting food banks with direct funding and using state money to give some SNAP recipients what they would have received if the program were still operating. To find out more, we got some of our reporters from all 3 states together to tell us what's happening. Community engagement reporter Elise Gregg with MPB in Jackson. Hi, Elise.
Hey there.
Sports and culture reporter Joseph King with WBHM in Birmingham. What's up, Joseph?
What's up, Drew?
And Alex Cox, a core member of Report for America with WRKF in Baton Rouge. Alex, thanks for being here.
I didn't think I would be breaking news as we were recording.
That's how it goes, man. We got to keep up. Let's start with Mississippi. Elise, what's the situation there?
So Mississippi isn't using any of its own money to give SNAP recipients a boost. On social media, Governor Tate Reeves said there's, quote, no simple way for state government to just step in, end quote, to counter the costs of the shutdown. And at a recent press conference, he said his hands were tied because he doesn't have the same authority as Louisiana's governor to allocate emergency funding. And Louisiana had originally set aside some money, but we've got more developments on that later.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot more complicated and honestly kind of really funny once we get to my part of this.
Yeah, Alex, I hope you're able to kind of figure it out by the end of this conversation when we get to you, because it's actively changing as we speak.
Working on it.
I was going to say, fun episode today. But with that said, it's been local governments and charities who have been intervening to meet the needs of Mississippians with the shutdown. And right now there are over 350,000 folks on SNAP in the state, which is about 12% of Mississippi's total population. In Jackson, Mayor John Horn announced that they're using $150,000 of city money to help provide meals in the city and surrounding Hinds County through local food banks and community kitchens.
Okay, and how are those local food banks and community kitchens? How are they feeling about meeting those needs? Do you know what they're planning to do with that funding?
Yeah, so I've spoken with local food banks and, some folks who work statewide, and by and large, charities that I've spoken with have told me that they're basically going to operate as they always have, using what existing resources they have to all of a sudden meet this increased need. At the same time, folks I've spoken with have also said they're trying to take it a week at a time to figure out what's next because there's so much uncertainty about when the shutdown will end, when people are going to get SNAP benefits, and future needs because people are only getting half of their usual assistance. And I will say most of them sound pretty determined and confident that they can meet those needs, but there are a few notable challenges.
Yeah, I feel like, these are organizations that are used to dealing with struggle, right? And having to rise to the occasion to meet the need here. But what are some of those notable challenges that you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them did say that, this is not a new issue. It's been ongoing trying to get the assistance they need. But when it comes to particular challenges with the shutdown first, the problems aren't going to go away when government services return. I spoke with Jill Buckley, who directs a food bank and community kitchen called Stew Pot in Jackson. And she said people will still need services from them and other food banks and community kitchens as they get back on their feet.
I think that any disruption is going to have a ripple effect, and it might take families weeks, really, to kind of get back to some kind of equilibrium.
And then secondly, the timing is just not great. The holidays, particularly Thanksgiving, aren't far off. Cassandra Mobley, interim CEO of Mississippi Food Network, said this time of year they're usually pushing for more donations anyways. Now they're having to use what they had for Thanksgiving to help folks with immediate needs from SNAP delays.
So we have been getting things in to get ready for our Thanksgiving rush and trying to get the extra food in for that. So those are some of the resources that we have now activated to use to get out for this additional need.
Okay, so what do they say is the best thing people can do to help them out? If someone wants to help, how can they do that?
Yeah, so Mobley said cash is the fastest and most efficient way to help out Mississippi Food Network because they can put that where it's most needed. They can allocate it to their partners in kind of like a flexible way. Longer term, she said volunteering and food drives are really important. She and other folks told me that it's not just more food that they need, but really more hands on deck to get that food out there to people who need it.
So they need more funding and more help.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the update, Elise. Let's take a shift over to Alabama. Joseph, I know you're usually the sports and culture reporter for us, but you took a day off from the beat to pitch in on some of the news out of Birmingham this week. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Yeah. First, I'm just a utility reporter. You put me wherever I'm needed, and I can get the job done. But yeah, Tuesday morning, I went to Birmingham City Council meeting. The City Council unanimously voted to use $1 million from the city's reserves to help people affected by the government shutdown. The United Way of Central Alabama will manage these funds received.
Yeah, and I know I'd seen some stuff on social media from Mayor Woodfin. He was planning to do something about SNAP in Birmingham. What exactly is he trying to do?
So yeah, earlier this month, Birmingham's Mayor Randall Woodfin requested that the city council get some of that money out of the city's reserves. Here's some tape from that press conference.
Food and nutrition is a necessity. It is not a choice. And there are many things that you can make about politics and power. Food and nutrition as it relates to feeding family and children should not be one of them.
Woodfin said nearly 23,000 households in Birmingham receive SNAP benefits. Also, ahead of the vote, Alabama Congresswoman Terry Sewell addressed the city council that morning in favor of the use of these funds. She met with the press briefly afterwards.
45% of the recipients of SNAP in my district, Alabama 7th Congressional District, have children. The face of this crisis in food insecurity are our children and our seniors. And, sad to say, many veterans.
And as I understand it, the governor is also getting involved now too, right? I mean, what did Governor Kay Ivey say she's trying to do to help?
So at first, Governor Ivey said the state does not have the funds to cover the program amid the shutdown, like what Louisiana said they would do.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah. And Alabama Democrats actually called on Ivey to hold a special session to find some solution. And at the time, the governor's communications director said that wasn't likely. It was just hours after the Birmingham City Council voted to use that $1 million that Ivey announced that she would use the state's emergency fund to support food banks across Alabama.
So I'm sensing a theme today, which is constantly shifting updates and a challenge to figure out what's actually happening right now. Can you tell us a little bit about how that shakes out with that emergency fund? What's the breakdown of that money that Governor Ivey is trying to commit to the SNAP program?
Okay. A total of $5 million will be spread out to the food banks. $2 million coming from the state's emergency fund and $3 million coming from the Alabama Department of Human Resources. Also, an additional $300 will be given to caregivers with children enrolled in the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program.
Gotcha. Okay. Appreciate you giving us the rundown, Joseph.
No problem.
Okay. Last but not least, we're going to go to Louisiana with you, Alex. I know this is actively changing. And I should say, too, that, we are recording on Wednesday, November 5th. It is 1:24 p.m. in the afternoon. We prepare for these conversations. We have notes. We have information that we're going to talk about. And Alex got a little bit of a curveball thrown at them right before the meeting. So can you kind of walk us through what's going on right now?
Yeah. So as I've alluded to this entire recording, things are breaking right now. I was literally kind of preparing my notes for this recording, getting everything ready when I got a message in our Slack chat from another news outlet breaking the news that money had been removed from people's EBT cards in Louisiana. And so I went on a People Finder website, found the press officer for Louisiana Department of Health's phone number and frantically called to see if I could get comment before this recording.
Okay, so you put your stalker skills to good use there.
Yeah.
How did she react to a call on her cell? And also, what did she say? What's going on?
I'm pretty sure I broke the news to her. Like I can't say that for certain, but she sounded surprised. So to her credit, she got a statement out very quickly. And so we have a statement from her. I've asked follow-up questions, but we don't necessarily, I haven't gotten those answered. But kind of right now what we know, and this could change, and I haven't been able to clarify this, but it seems like the Louisiana state-funded money that was going to go to SNAP beneficiaries, that is not going to go out anymore, except for what's already been out for the elderly, for people with disabilities, and for children and the people in their household. It seems like that was distributed on the first, second, and third, and it seems like they're not going to take that money away. But the SNAP distributor gave out money early, and so the money that was given out today was pulled back and will be given back to SNAP recipients either later today or by Friday.
Really appreciate you being on the fly with this, Alex. Is there anything else that we know at this point as it relates to SNAP in Louisiana?
Yeah, there's one actually important thing to note is that now everyone on SNAP is going to get benefits. Is going to be I believe it's a half payout from the federal government from that court order. And so originally the Louisiana funds were only going to go to people with disabilities, children, and the elderly or people in their household. And 53,000 people were left out without SNAP benefits. But from the email I received, again, we're recording this on Tuesday.
Alex, it's actually Wednesday. I know it's fast, rapidly changing. The march of time is getting the best of us all.
My central nervous system is activated. I'll be checking my email. So we will have more reporting on that later.
Well, thank you, Alex, for breaking down what we know now. And we will continue to follow it, I'm sure, as we learn more.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks to all three of you for this Gulf South SNAP breakdown.
No problem, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now, normally we'd end with a Gulf States gem, and that's our series that lets us shout out something about the region that we love. A landmark or a state park or something, it doesn't make a lot of sense for this episode. But there are people and organizations that are stepping up to help feed people in their communities. Think your food banks or food pantries or even a community fridge.
Right, like Mississippi Food Network. If you're in Mississippi and you do want to donate or volunteer or do a food drive, that's the place to go to. They work with over 400 agencies across the state, so they can get you connected locally, and you can find somewhere near you to help out.
Or the Christian Service Mission, a Birmingham nonprofit that assists food banks. They're actually working with Mayor Wolfen to collect donations of canned goods and different things like that. So if you're in Birmingham and you want to help out, go down there.
Yeah, or the Baton Rouge Council on Aging. They recently held a food drive, and they had people show up at 4 a.m. to start getting in line. The food drive started proper at 10 a.m. They had lines so long by 9 a.m. that it was backing up the interstate, so they had to start early.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking to hear. I mean, these are just a couple of examples of organizations and people that are doing this work in our region. So while SNAP is being figured out, maybe consider donating to or supporting one of these efforts in your own community. They're helping out a lot of people, and I'm sure they could use your support. This week's show is cooked up by the Gulf States Newsroom team. Our theme music is by DJ Supreme. Special thanks to our partner stations, WBHM, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, WWNO, and WRKF. You can find us in your podcast feeds every Friday. Look us up and be sure to subscribe. Again, I'm your host, Drew Hawkins. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to stir your roux.